Hey, you gorgeous, beautiful people. I have just finished up consulting for the day. Thought, do you know what? Let's hop on. Feeling very, very connected. Wanted to share this week's whispers from the divine, which goes like this: shifts. The good news is the light is coming for you. And feel into those words for a moment. Shifts. The good news is the light is coming for you. I feel into those words. Those whispers, they come through a couple of nights ago in a really, really beautiful consultation. And we were talking about, what is going on at a wider level, what's going on within our lives and what is going on collectively. Okay, and I was getting this real strong sense from spirit. Had this beautiful wise elder there at the time that was saying, if you kind of look out into the world, there's one or two things happening. It's like you look out into the world and it is pretty overwhelming. And what we're seeing in real time is so much is fragmenting, so much is rupturing, so much is falling apart. But as Spirit said in winter solstice of 2019, from the shell of the old world a new world will be born. And what I felt now when I reflect back on that, what they're talking about is in a way kind of everything turning itself inside out, which is this alchemy and this transformation. And as Spirit always say, listen, healing, fucking messy business. It is a really fucking messy business. It is about grit and blood and bone. It is absolutely stripping everything back to the real core and down to the layers. And that is what we're seeing play out in a wider way. So, it is really kind of fragmenting. It is all those things that seem to be holding everything together are no longer working. They're falling over, they're falling apart. You can see it playing out in real time, even within this last week. You hear the story about the new king of England. There's so much that is moving and shifting and rupturing and within that's that sense of, from the shell of the old world, a new world will be born. It's like a painful process. Birthing is a painful process. So those two things are happening, is that either people are kind of like just really overwhelmed by it all and they're pulling back, understandably, just completely, feeling really numb and pulling back and shutting down because it is so overwhelming and traumatic. Or the other thing that is happening is they are being completely cracked open. Their hearts are hugely cracking open, like people that have kind of felt, kind of really kind of contained, cracking open. It's like the pain of the world is, creeping in there, cracking those hearts open. And that's what Spirit is saying, is the light is coming for you. And I really do feel that, there is no escaping for any of us the shift that we find ourselves in. That this ultimately is this sense of all of us being alchemized collectively, and evolution comes from that place. It's like gritty, messy. But the good news is the light is coming for you, and that's what we're moving into. So, from the shell of the old world, a new world will be born. And I really kind of seeing that play out so much within my work. Kind of people are, they're just cracking open. And if you kind of look out there, it's like so much of what was holding all this together is no longer holding it all together. But the point is that it isn't serving us, and it isn't serving the planet the way that we have been living. So a new story needs to be birthed, and in a way, you could be thinking, well, where is it? because we're in between stories. Okay, we're in between stories, but actually maybe the new story is living within us, and we just need to live it, which I believe is happening. So, you know, we just need to keep trusting this process. And I think it can be really painful, because the other thing that's happening, it feels like the cosmic furniture of our lives is completely being shuffled, rearranged and moved, and I think people are being placed exactly where they need to be. And also that means that sometimes there is rupturing within relationships, places of work, you know, because there is this kind of energy that is cosmically, if you like, rearranging that furniture. And sometimes it is this feeling of just picking people up and placing them exactly where they need to be, to allow that deeper purpose or their greatest potential to play out. As Spirit said, and I remember my dad sharing this with me as well, is that we have many futures. Okay, we have many futures, but we have one destiny. And that sounds like really huge and a really bold statement, but I absolutely completely believe it to be true. You know, you can kind of look at your life and where you are, and just, you know, you need to change it, and it's like, you know what, that's just too overwhelming, so just carry on with it. And that's one timeline. It's a bit like that incredible film Sliding Doors, and you kind of carry on along that timeline. But actually there's this other timeline that's over here that is really trying to scoop you up, and that does mean those changes or that transformation, or kind of being really honest with yourself. And that is painful. That can be really gritty, and that can be fucking messy business too, being honest with yourself at that level. But it is calling you into that place, because it wants to scoop you up into your greatest potential, into your greatness, where you can live that big bold life. And that is kind of like what's going on. You know, everything is kind of shaking apart to be alchemized. So, you know, continue to trust this process. And if you're going for a really difficult time, one of the things you really will benefit from is just trying to kind of move back to that sense of self, and to slow everything down, and start being very mindful of what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to. And quite often it takes a reversal on all of that. Okay, so there we are. That is this week's Whispers from the Divine. Got some really exciting news. If you're local, this is going to really hopefully speak to you. Is that over the next couple of days, and it kind of is there on my website right now, is that we are being able to offer those in-person medicine story circles, which is weaving a beautiful medicine story. And their first one now has been launched, which is going to be Bridget and the Burning Oak. And it is a story that we are going to then unpack, which actually has got kind of deeper teachings in there about initiations and rites of passage, which absolutely feels really relevant to what we're sharing now in real time, because so many of us are going through rites of passage and we are being alchemized. And Bridget and the Burning Oak is all to do with alchemization. So we're going to share this beautiful story, weave a little bit of a ceremony, and then together we are within a group going to unpack that medicine story. It's going to be in person, really cozy, informal, intimate, small group of 9 people. So if you are local and that speaks to you, jump onto the website, book your place, and I can absolutely guarantee you it's going to be a really alchemizing experience, really kind of coming into the richness of those stories. And medicine stories are really kind of, you know, I've gone through a major shift myself over this winter, and I've really realized how powerful those stories have been throughout my career, throughout my journey and my path working as a holistic medium. If you've ever had a consultation with me, you would have experienced one or two medicine stories, because they absolutely are at the heart of the work that we do with spirit. So if you are local, jump on the website. There's 9 places, and if you're really called to, I wouldn't sit on that for too long, because I am absolutely sure that they are going to get booked up, and booked up fairly swiftly. All right, that's me for now, and as always, sending you all so much love. Keep shining, beautiful people.